Okay, so in this video, we will see about the EC2 only, but EC2 IAM roles. So first we have to do what to do is we will create the EC2 instance. So just click on the EC2 as like in the same way like which we are doing in the past 3 to 4 videos. So let's launch the instance. Just use the free tier only. No need to pay. And within the script and we will use our script, though it is not working, but still we will use it. And one more thing I want to show you, like in the storage section, like we are adding some storage. Okay, the storage of 8 GB, but here you could see like one checkbox, like, right? So delete on termination. So it means when we delete our uh, uh, EC2 instance, so the attached storage device also will get deleted. So if you will not by default it is check mark, so don't like make it uncheck, because otherwise if you have to terminate your EC2 instance, then separately you have to terminate your storage. Otherwise you have to, if you forget to terminate your storage, maybe you have to pay. Okay, so make it always check, so that whenever you delete the EC2 instance, the attached storage can also get deleted. Whenever like you are just like learning something. So click on the next tag. So let's add the tag name EC2. So this is about the EC2 role. So I just give the name as EC2 role, and I am giving the owner as a my ID. Okay. So next, so let's configure the security group as well. Though in this section we don't have to follow anything, like we don't need to use the HTTP, but still we are giving that. Launch. So let's create the EC2 pair as well. EC2 launch instance. So this is like all the previous way, like how we are like launching the EC2 instances. But I want to show something different in this video, that is the EC2 IAM role. So let's wait for a few seconds. Where it goes. Yeah. So now it is running, right? So our EC2 instance is like up and the running. Okay, and it is running in the EU West too, because EU West is my the London location. Okay, so let's connect this EC2 instance, uh, this particular EC2 instance, either using this AWS connect option, or you can use the putty, or using the terminal, like as we see in the last video. So let's connect. Let's suppose if you forget the access, like in the last video I show you how to connect using the terminal rather than the AWS console, and I show you some command. So if you forget that command somehow, you can just like go to this section and click on the SSH client. In the SSH client they have shown you the command, the same command, SSH minus I, and then the key, then the IP of the user. Okay, so you can run this command. Along with that they have tell you something extra, like sometimes what will happen, you will get some kind of warning, because whenever you download the EC2 key, right? So we have downloaded some EC2 key pair which we have attached with the EC2 instance. So they are like publicly viewable. Viewable means, like if you check the property, so they have maybe read write access to all the users. So it means like anyone can read, write. So we don't have to only we just want only the owner of the like key can read or write the particular key, right? So that's why even not write, just read the particular key, right? So that's why we are giving the owner as the read access, but the groups and the other as the 00 access. So sometimes what will happen if you download the key by default, like on the system, their properties get changed and it changed to like maybe 777 755. So 755 means like read, write, execute, access. It's just a like normal file. It should not be the execute. So it is only like a read and write access. So so this is like very secret key. So what we want, whoever is the owner, that person should have only the read access. But the so first key is for the owner, second key is for the group, third key is for the other user. So we want the group as well as the other user don't have even read and write access. Even the owner don't have the write access because we don't want to change it. So owner should have only the read access. So that's why like if you see this kind of error, just you have to run this command. Okay, but it could be the reason you will see this error, but it could not be the reason like you will see this error. Like in my case I didn't see this error, but if you see this error you have to run this command. Okay, so you can come into this section and you can note down the commands. Okay, so let's connect into with this EC2 instance. So I have connected with the EC2 instance, right? Okay, so to run any commands uh, on my AWS, I am using the, so okay, one thing I want to tell you. So by default, like the Amazon instance have the AWS CLI installed. So if I do AWS minus minus version, so it has 1.18 version installed. So now I think AWS CLI is the version number 2 is also in the market. So it has like Python 2.7, Linux operating system, this Amazon 2 x86 Boto Core has version 1.18, and AWS CLI has version 1.18. Okay, so by default AWS CLI has version of 1.18. So but in the market as well, like we have the version 2 as well. So that's a different topic. But generally when we like in our computer we have the like also the command prompt, but if we run AWS we don't see we might see that this is the unrecognized command. But when we spin up the EC2 instance using the Amazon image, right, so it will provide few packages already installed with you. So that is the AWS CLI. Okay, so that is done. Now if you want to run any command on the like AWS, like whether you want to list the instances, whether you want to list the user, whether you want to invoke the lambda function, whether you want to put the object into S3 bucket, whether you want to read the object from the S3 bucket. So any command, so all the, so whoever will run the command, so that user should have access to run that command, right? Otherwise you will get the error like you are not authorized. So to run the command using the command prompt we have the AWS, right? So whenever we run an AWS command, so let me clear this window. So whenever we run any AWS command we will just write AWS. Okay, the second parameter always will, most of the time it will be the function, like which services, basically which services we on which we want to perform the operation. Like let's I want to operation on the EC2, or I want to perform promotion on the lambda, or I want to, sorry, or I want to perform operation on the S3 bucket, or I want to perform operation on the IAM, or I want to perform the operation on the logs. So anything like any services which we want to use, so we have to first like keyword is the AWS, then it should be the like services. So let's suppose we want to, oh, so let me show you. So if you go to the AWS and if you go to IAM, okay. So IAM is basically like identity access management, so which is used to manage the resources like who can like access our services, just to give the some access, or to revoke the access, to create the users, to add the user into the group, to create the group. Okay, so if you go to the user, we could see like I have created one user, only one user like exists. So we have the command. Let's suppose from our EC2 instance, I want to execute the command on the IAM service, right? Which will list all the existing users. So AWS IAM list users. So if I enter it, it is giving me the error unable to locate the credentials. You can configure the credential by running AWS configure. So why it is giving me this error? Because as I told you, to run any command on our AWS, we first should have the access, right? And whenever we run AWS command, so one should have the access. So access means the one should have the user ID or the password, or maybe the some key. So where our password or keys will be stored, so it will be stored somewhere, so that like AWS read my ID and my password, and then it will first verify whether my ID and password is correct, and then it will check whether my ID has the proper rights to execute that command. If that stage also passed, then it will like give me the output, right? So first thing it is doing is it is trying to read the credentials files, right? But so it is saying that I am unable to locate the credential file itself. So what it will do, so how it will be run, uh, so a notepad. Mm, okay, leave that. So how it will be run, like we have run AWS IAM list users, all right? So first it will checking, first it has to check uh, like whoever, like right now who is running this command. So EC2 user is running this command, all right? So what it will check, first it will check whether the EC2 users like have rights or not, right? So so where it will check whether so it will check it basically its ID and password. So where it will check its ID and password, so it will store somewhere, whether it's a file, in a file or in a database. So it will check the credentials files, right? So this file should exist, right? So first it will go to the credential file, then it will basically first it will go to the credential file, right? Then it will like read that credential file. Within the credential file it will check, okay, so whether this user like what is the password of this user. Okay, then it will check, okay, this is the password. Then it will check whether this user has the access or not, right? So first it will check the credential file, but it said that I am unable to read the credential file itself. So the credential file doesn't exist because we have not configured our AWS system. So it told that, okay, let's configure the AWS system. So AWS, it is saying that we have to run the AWS configure command. If we run the AWS configure command, it is telling us that enter the AWS access key ID, right? So I don't want to like enter any key ID, so let me press enter. And access key, let me press enter. Default region, I let me press enter. And default output, I will press enter. Just the dummy, and let me rerun the command. It again say unable to locate the credential, because if we put everything enter, it will not create the credential file. So to create the credential file, we have to configure something, right? So first we have to run the AWS configure, right? So let me do is, let me like enter some dummy value, all right? So default region is EU West 2, and output could be JSON. So I have entered the dummy value. Now I enter the like that command. Now I did not get that error, that unable to locate the credential file, because when I run the AWS configure command and I enter some dummy value, it what it did is it create the, so let me show you pwd. uh, ls minus a. So it created the .aws folder. So if you go to the .aws folder, within the aws folder it created two files. One is the config file and one is the credentials file. So it is reading this credentials file. First it is going to the aws folder, then it is going to the credential file, and the config file contains our configuration. So only this configuration, like default region and the default format. But credential file contains this information, that is the xx key id and the xx secret key. So let's read that. So cat config, so cat config file is containing only last two options, like what is the output we want to show, like what is the by default region. But if I do cat credentials, so my credential file is basically aws xx key id and aws secret xx key, right? So it says that invalid credential token id, because I enter the invalid id, because this is not a valid id, right? So because I have entered the dummy ids. Okay, so now let me configure it again, but now with the correct value. So I have to enter the aws xx key id. So here I have only one user. So if you click on this user and go to the security credentials, so you can create your xx key. So show, so copy the xx key id. So key id and secret key is basically the user id and the password, you can say. So copy the id, enter, and copy the password. Okay, so region is default region is okay, format is okay, right? So I have done this. So now if you do ls and cat credentials, now you can see like my aws access key id is this and aws secret access key is this. Okay, now if I run that command, 1 minute. Now if I run that im list users, so I am getting the output like whatever all the user exist. So I have only one user. So in the im I have only, I can create more user as well, but right now I have only one user, and it is showing me that user. So this is the username, and where was the when the last password got used, when the user got created, like what is the user id, this is the same user id, like what is the path, what is the arn, right? So we get the output, but this is the way which we did is very wrong. Like, okay, so why this user is able to like access the particular run this command, because to this user, if you click on this user, I give the administrative access. So if you like within the permission, if you click on the administrative access and if you browse the policy, so if you see the policy, effect is allow, action is star. Star means it can perform anything on the AWS. Resources mean on any resource, right? So that's because it is the admin, so I give the admin. So that's why whatever the key ID and use for the particular user, that user have the access. That is working fine. But the what the disadvantage of this is, so let's suppose if I tell someone else to access my machine, right? Someone from my team want to do some work on this EC2 instance which I have created, right? So I told, okay, you can log in, this is the IP, so you can log it in into my EC2 instance and you can do the work. So he can do the work, but he can also read my credential file as well, right? But this is my IDs only, right? Like AWS access key ID and AWS secret key, which has the high level of permission, that is the administrative level of access permission. So he can just copy this ID and the secret key, and he can like use it to create any service, to destroy any service. So we don't have to so whenever we perform any action from the services, so EC2 is the one of the service, we generally don't use the uh, these kind of IDs. So So what we have to use, because without the ID or without the credential we can't even able to access the we like any API. So AWS IAM, you can say any API. So what is the next step, what we have to do? So the next step comes into the roles. So roles are basically is a kind of a, you can say, the user only, right? So it is kind of a user and password only, but role is basically for the like services which we want to create. So if you go to the uh, 1 minute, if you go to the EC2, so I have one instance running. If you click on this, if you go to the security, right now we don't have any IAM role, so you could see there is no IAM role attached with it, right? So right now if we have to run any command, so I have to run from my account only, right? So because EC2 user don't have any access, so I have configure on the AWS with my ID and the password, right? Because this user has the admin access, so that's why it is able to like mm, access run any command, AWS IAM command. But if what, like, let's work, this is the EC2 instance, and from the EC2 instance I only want to execute IAM command, nothing else. Like I don't want to, from the EC2 instance I don't want to run the lambda commands, I don't want to run the S3 commands, I only want to run the IAM commands. Plus what I want is like anyone can like access my machine, but he don't want to like see my credentials. So what we have to do is, so let me go back. ls minus a, okay, cd ec2 user ls minus a. So let me remove that folder, aws. So now we don't have that. Okay, rs minus rf.aws. So now we don't have that folder. Right, so if we try to run that command again, so it will say like unable to record like locate the credential, because we have like deleted that. So I don't want to use store my credentials here. So what is the other approach is, so we will create the IAM role. So go to the IAM section, go to the role, so create a IAM role. So we will like we are creating the IAM role for the AWS services, because EC2 is one of the services, and EC2 instance want to execute some commands. We don't want to execute some commands. So this is the EC2 instance which want to execute the command. So if the EC2 instance want to execute the commands, why should I use my own credentials? So EC2 should have like use his own credentials, right? So for the services, we will create a role. So we will go to the role. So they have, I also give some common use whether you want to the EC2 role, because these are very most popular used. So you can go here, you can select the EC2. So which services you are using? So I'm using the EC2. All right. So okay, so allow the EC2. So they allow EC2 instance to call AWS services on your behalf. Allow EC2 instance to call AWS services like CloudWatch and System Manager on your behalf. So only these two services. So but I want, okay, it will call like all the service on your behalf. Just create a EC2 instance. So go to the next. Okay. So what what operation from the EC2 instance we want? So we want only the IAM operation EC2 instance can perform. So here we will give here IAM read. So just select IAM policy, and even if you expand this policy, you could see what action it can perform. So effect is allow, it is not deny. So what action it can perform? It is able to perform only IAM operation like get list or generate credential report. So it is only able to perform the IAM operation, nothing else, because it is IAM read only access command. So click on the next, and we will give the role name. So give the EC2 role. Okay, so because allow EC2 instance to call AWS service on your behalf. So we want EC2 instance should execute that property. We don't want to use my credential. We want EC2 instance should itself. So EC2 is, you can say, a kind of a user. So for that particular user, we are giving like creating some roles. So go to the create role. Okay. So yeah, so role has been created. So now EC2 role has been created. So we have to attach the particular role because here we don't have the role. So we have to attach the particular role to the our virtual machine. So it is in the security section. So go to the actions, go to the security section, go to the modify IAM role. So here we have to attach the IAM role. Just click on it. In the drop down list we will found our role which we have just created, EC2 instance. Click on save. Okay, so now we have attached the EC2 role, like IAM role. So you can see within the security, earlier it is blank. Now we can see the EC2 role because just now we have attached it. So here we are unable to run the command, but now I run the same command again. I am able to like see the output, right? And still I don't have anything in the, there is no AWS folder, there is no credential file, there is no config file. So it is a, you can say a safety. So if now I give this virtual machine to any user, he can't see my credential because we attach some IAM role to the EC2 instance and we restrict that IAM role. That IAM role can only perform a particular set of operation, right? And that role has attached to the EC2, so anyone can run only the IAM commands. So if I want to run like any other command, let's suppose AWS S3 ls, so it will say access denied because I don't have the like list bucket operation access. Because what user like what is the user who is attached with the EC2? So basically the user is EC2 role. So and what permission that particular user has? So this user has only uh, IAM permission, and that is also the get permissions. So within the permission tag we can see, we can click on it and we can see only it has this permission. But for the from the EC2 instance, what services I want to call? AWS S3. So that's why it says like this role doesn't have the permission to run the S3 like services. This role have the only permission to run the IAM services. So this is the advantage of the like IAM role. So we have created the role for the particular services. So generally in our like actual in our company we always create a role. So and we always create the attach that particular role with our services. Let's suppose if we want to perform some operation, I want my lambda function should like perform some operation on the S3 bucket, or S3 bucket should perform some operation on my lambda. So I will not use my own credential. What I will do is I will create the IAM role and I will put only those restrictions or give only those access, that is operation which I want to perform, which I want my S3 bucket should perform, or which I want my lambda function should perform. Only I give those permission and I will attach that role with the particular service. So basically I am creating the role for a particular services, right? So this is the like the short video for the IAM role. So now if I give to like any user, I did not say my credentials. So that because that is my personal credentials and this is the EC2 user. So why I use my personal credential on the EC2 user? So better for the, this is a different user, EC2 user. For the EC2 services I will create the different like role and will give the only those permission which I want to execute. So let's suppose in future like someone okay, let me show you. So right now we have only added the so S3 bucket. So what is the I'm not sure like for the bucket for like what is the permission policy, add permission. Okay, attach policies. So S3 Amazon S3 full access. So let's suppose right now I am unable to run the S3 command because it says access denied. So if I attach the S3 access as well. So Amazon S3 full access. Okay, attach policy. So now for this role, mm, if I click on this role, if I go to the permission, now it has two permission, IAM role and the S3. So for the S3, it can perform any action, and the object is lambda. So I'm not sure. Okay, but basically two permission, S3 star and S3 object lambda star. So if I run the same command, so it this time it did not give me the error because we don't have any S3 bucket exist. So that's why it says that like there are no like S3 buckets, just the empty. But it did not give me that error. So that is the advantage of the, because earlier what I am doing is I am attaching my credential. I am configuring with my like XX key or access secret key. Basically so we have two things. We have two things like SS key and secret key. So key ID and key, basically the user ID and the password. So this user ID and the password has the admin level of access, but we only want that is to user only perform only various kind of permission like operation, because otherwise whoever logged in into the EC2 user, EC2 machine, that can do anything if I give like a lot of permission to the EC2 user. So that is very wrong. So we will give only those permission to the EC2 user or EC2 instance, whatever the like operation we want to perform. So that's why the roles come into the picture. So now if we want, let's suppose EC we want, okay, one second, let me remove that permission. We will go to the roles, we will click on the EC2, and if I click on the Amazon S3 and I remove that particular role, so now that role is removed, only it has the IAM access. So if I try to run the same command again, it will say me the access denied error, because to the particular role I remove that S3 permission. Now EC2 instance can't run the any command related to the S3, because with the EC2 command I have attached the role. So whatever the permission attached with this EC2 role, only that commands my EC2 services can execute. So that's the end of the video. So that is the use of the EC2 instance. So one thing we have to do, we have to stop this instance, right, so that it should not be charged, and we have to terminate it. Okay, so don't forget to terminate whenever you are like using, if you want to use only free services. Okay, so that's it, that is the end of the video. Thank you.